Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Engel, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And with a shout out to our listeners in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas, and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder, and Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, Washington, D.C., and Alexandria, Virginia. And speaking of Alexandria, Virginia, my co-host today is George Landrith from Frontiers of Freedom. Great to have you with me today, George. Always, I look forward to our conversations on multiple topics. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. This is the place to be, and I always enjoy doing the show with you, Sharron. Between you and Rick, I feel like there's things that you do in your daily routine that you have to do because you must do, and there's things you do because you thoroughly enjoy them. And this is one of the things that I thoroughly enjoy.
Well, and I always enjoy it when we come off of a news cycle. It seems like there's always a few things in the news that capture you and you say, wonder why I didn't hear about that. Yeah. And one of those things that I wondered why I didn't hear too much about is, and it's actually kind of a byline in another story. The story is actually about how good the economy is doing, with lots of jobs every month. Statistic here that they name is 167,000 new jobs a month, and that we're just staying very unchanged at unemployment at 3.6%, which is
the lowest rate ever for the lowest unemployment rate. So the fewest unemployed blacks since they've kept records of that. So
it's just amazing.
And that, of course, from our racist president.
Well, we don't. But we don't hear about that. I mean, all I've been hearing on the news is impeachment and Biden and the whistleblower and, those kinds of things. It's all really politics rather than things that we would I consider hard news. And buried in this article, there's another thing. It says that it's estimated that, I'll just start at the beginning. GM, General Motors United Auto Workers strike was 41 days long. They just came off of it, and it's estimated that the strike cost General Motors $4 billion in lost productivity. That seems like hard news to me, George.
Yeah, they might want to cover that. I don't know. It's very interesting. I want to use the word bias because, as I said, the problem with the word bias is it suggests that it's subtle, and I don't think this is subtle. To me, this is just outright dishonesty, and I think the press covers things. Sometimes what they cover and how they cover it is evidence of their dishonesty, but sometimes what they don't cover is evidence of their dishonesty. And I would argue that the whole GM strike and so forth was a big story, and it was an important story for this reason. Generally, a strike of that magnitude and of that length does some real damage to the economy. When GM loses $5 billion, that's not an insignificant sum of money, and that impacts economic growth, employment numbers, all kinds of things. And yet, what we saw was still a strong economy. On top of that, you have China that is in serious trouble. You have much of Europe that's in a slowing down economy, having trouble. And it's kind of like if everybody in your house and all of your friends have a cold, chances are you're going to get a cold. And yet we haven't yet. We probably should have, if history is right, but we haven't. And yet the press does not want to cover that. So to me, I find it very odd to hear them kind of say, well, but sure, the economy's strong now, but there may be a recession on the horizon. They're just hoping for one. But the reality is the economy continues to move along with surprising strength, particularly given all the reasons it might have to not be moving at surprising strength. It does anyhow. And I think that's a tribute to many of the things that Donald Trump has done as president, which have made it more likely the economy goes well. So to me, you're right. This is a hard news story. It's not about opinions. It's not asking people, how do you feel today? We're looking at actual employment numbers. We're looking at actual dollars of GNP or GDP and these, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, the problem is they're real numbers. They're real facts. And so they're harder to shape and mold to tell the story you want to tell. And if you're the Washington Post, the story you want to tell is, oh, there could be some trouble in the future. Oh, you know, or you want to tell the truth, you know, Donald Trump's the worst ever. I mean, you know, just, you know, even to the point of like, we now hear stories that Donald Trump isn't cooperating completely with Adam Schiff. In other words, when Adam Schiff says, I want you to tell the following, you know, facts and story, and I want you to do this, he's like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, that's not how it works. You know, the judge does not have the right to tell the witness what he must say.
And that's so inside politics. You know, if to me, that stuff is inside politics. Most day-to-day heartland folks just really could care. But this story, like I said, it's in the middle of another story that says that they laid off 50,000 union workers. And you would think with 50,000 workers laid off from General Motors on a strike, and this is all Democrat territory, you would have thought that the mainstream alphabet news media would have jumped all over it. Like you said, jump on that and say, look at this president, look what he's caused. I mean, 50,000 people out of work, you would have thought that would have been a story, but it's like, no big deal.
Yeah, but the net, of course, is 175,000 plus, even in light of the 50,000 on the strike.
That's right. Well, they did kind of give it a little bit of a nod. They said, you know, this is probably why it wasn't stronger. It's strong. It's actually stronger than September. Mm-hmm. But they said, well, the reason that October is stronger is because in September they had this strike. And of course, that all leads us back to a foul-up by Trump, but it's a sideways foul-up because the foul-up is that this trade deal with China, that's where the real production has gone down. We're kind of lagging behind because of this trade conflict. So, you know, like I said, it's kind of all sideways at Trump, but it's buried beneath all this politics as usual stuff inside the Beltway that really, I don't know, my neighbors don't talk about this stuff much. They're not talking impeachment. They're not talking, what do your neighbors talk about?
I haven't had, you know, the funny thing is that's all they talk about in the press, but I think the average American looks at this and kind of goes, you know, it's interesting. Nancy Pelosi used to say that impeachment had to be a bipartisan process. And Gerald Nadler used to say, and I'm not talking 10 years ago. I'm talking, you know, 10 weeks ago. They used to say that if the public perceived this was a partisan attack on the president, that they would not be able to have the support of the public and they'd have all these other problems, that no other impeachment's ever been done solely on a partisan basis, and so forth. And lo and behold, they've forgotten they've said all this, and they're doing exactly what they said they couldn't and shouldn't do. So I can't imagine it's going to be helping them. I think the average American is going to ask themselves, wait a minute. So you're telling us the economy is not doing well, even though it is. You're telling us all these, you know, horrible of horribles, that Donald Trump's ruined everything. And yet me and all my friends and family members are all employed. And but all you can do is basically subpoena people and shout and scream about how they're not cooperating, giving you the answers you've asked for. But you haven't passed any laws to fix the things that your presidential campaign people are campaigning on. You haven't done any of that. All you do is subpoena. That's it. And it's kind of like, if I were the average American, I'd be saying, I don't have to know a lot about this to understand that this isn't real.
There is no there, is there, George?
No.
There is no
As Winnie the Pooh once said, the
there.
more I looked, the more it wasn't there.
Right. Well, we have to take a break. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with iHeartRadio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, American Political Radio, and Leading Edge Radio and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California, specifically San Francisco and Sacramento. I'm Sharron Engel. The co-host is George Landrith, and we'll be right back after these messages to talk about our guests today.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome, listeners. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. And also, please like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And we've got three great guests today. George, would you tell our audience who we're going to be talking with?
Absolutely. We've got some, like you said, just great guests. I think that's one of the hallmarks of the Conservative Commandos. We're going to start off with Matt Margolis. Let me make sure I say that right. Margolis, right?
Matt Margolis, uh-huh.
Yep. So now he is... he's an author and he's also a journalist, but he's the author of The Scandalous Presidency of Barack Obama. And he's also the author of a best-selling book entitled The Worst President in History, The Legacy of Barack Obama. And then he writes for PJ Media, and they do a lot of great stuff, a lot of great investigative journalism that seems to not be done much anymore. You have this kind of lazy media and so forth, but he's not one of those. And he's got a new book that's just out beginning late this summer, and that's Trumping Obama, How President Obama Saved Us from Barack Obama's Legacy. So lots there to talk about. We're going to kind of focus with him on Adam Schiff and what's going on there, and also with Nancy Pelosi and kind of some of her leadership and kind of where the party's headed and how they're taking this wild swing to the left. So I'm sure all of that will be very interesting. And he's Matt's a good guy and very interesting. And then we're going to shift gears and talk with, he is with Daily Caller, the Washington Examiner, the Federalist, Western Journal, American Thinker. I'm sure you guys, know him. He's been a guest on our show before, and that's Elad Hakim. He's an attorney. Don't hold that against him. He's a commentator and political writer, and we're going to talk with him about this whole question of whether Donald Trump really did have some constitutional requirement to give Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler and on the Senate side, Mr. Schumer, Chuck Schumer, to give him a heads up on the operation to get al-Baghdadi. You've heard that, I'm sure, the complaint that he didn't give them advance notice, and they're not just mad about it or offended about it. They're arguing that it's unprecedented and so forth. It's not, but we'll get the skinny there. And then the second part of our conversation with Elad is going to be about the resolution that Nancy Pelosi, the sham resolution, on trying to give the appearance of some sort of due process, even though there isn't any there. So I think that'll be a very interesting conversation. Then we're going to conclude with Tristan Justice. Now, he's a staff writer at the Federalist, and he focuses primarily on the 2020 election, but he does other things as well. He used to write for the Washington Examiner, the Daily Signal. He's a graduate of the University of George Washington University. And we're going to talk to him about Kamala Harris and what's going on with her campaign. Short answer might be not a lot, but we'll go into detail and figure out what the problem is. And then we're also going to talk about the impeachment inquiry with him a bit, and how they've stacked the rules in an unfair way, and how this actually is unprecedented. Most of what the Democrats say is unprecedented has been done most of the time. For them, what's unprecedented is that someone might care about the Constitution, for example. That's unprecedented. But anyhow, so I think we've got a really good lineup. I'm expecting it to be a strong, really strong couple hours of radio.
I do too. And we kind of need to talk about things that are unprecedented. We had a revelation this last week, I guess, of the whistleblower. Oh, yeah. And that's interesting to me that we now know his name. We now know that he's part of the really deep state, if you will. I mean, he's a bureaucrat at GS13. They don't usually get involved in politics at all. The Hatch Act is so stacked there as far as how much an actual government worker can participate in politics, that it's interesting to me that someone of that level, which is not very high in the federal government, 13s are pretty common in government service if you've been there any length of time. And it just is amazing to me that how this impeachment thing has just kind of devolved, and yet Fox does this poll. And the poll says that the Fox guys, and I'm hoping that they're, not just doing this poll on any old buddies, but people that actually listen to Fox. And if you're watching Fox or listening to Fox, you hope they're a little more informed than the average guy. But they say that 60% of those polls polled are saying that they think that Trump asked the Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. Well, it's absolutely false if you read the transcript. You know, I don't get it.
We don't need to read the transcript. We need to hear
all
from
this stuff.
Yeah. I think it's funny because they don't want us to read the transcript. They want us to listen to people who want to tell us what the transcript says. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, in evidence, it's not admissible. You can't put someone on the stand to tell people what the contract says. You have to actually put the contract into evidence. The contract speaks for itself. The transcript speaks for itself. What some dodo who happens to like, Biden thinks about it is irrelevant. It's just like, I'm sorry, who cares? But
like
so the standards of evidence are being thrown out the window.
His friends, right?
Yeah,
it's all Adam Schiff and his friends. These guys keep coming out of the woodwork, and their singular connection is Adam Schiff. Even Biden, he's got a connection with Adam Schiff.
Right.
But here people still remain uninformed.
Right.
It seems like.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that was I don't know that Fox, when they poll people, only polls their viewers. I suspect they're polling just Americans, and they probably polled 2,000 to 3,000 people to get, or maybe 1,000 people to get some sort of representative sampling, so to speak. And all this really tells me is that NBC, CBS, MSNBC, et cetera, the Washington Post, have been telling people lies for 6 months. And guess what? When you tell people lies for 6 months, some of them start to believe those lies. So it's not a very interesting poll to me. What it's really doing is polling Americans, asking them, so what do you think the truth is? And what we found out is that they don't know what the truth is. Flash!
That's right.
When you have a fake news media that makes its money lying to the American public, they become stupider for listening to them. If you want to become less informed, know less about your country and what's actually happening, then tune in to NBC and CBS and ABC and MSNBC, et cetera, because if you listen to them too much, you will effectively be listening to a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party or the left. And guess what? When you do that, you become stupider.
Well, it seems to be working for them, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised at that, but it is working, and I guess if we want it to not work, we have to do what we do here on Conservative Commandos radio show, which is get guests that can actually make informed.
Well, you're exactly right. There's no way, if you listen to Conservative Commandos, that you would believe half these lies, because you get the facts, you get real analysis, and you don't necessarily get the Democratic talking points.
And with that, we'll go to a break and get on with our first guest, Matt Margolis. It always gets me with Mark. I guess it's because that Margolis, you want to put Mark there instead of Matt. But anyway, Matt Margolis will be our first guest right after we come back from this break. And we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM FM 24/7. Now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. I'm Sharron Angle. My co-host is George Landrith, and we'll be right back after these messages.
AM FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Engel here with my co-host, George Landrith, and we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Network studios. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show, you can go to our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. Also, please like us or friend us or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And George, our guest is ready. Would you introduce him, please?
Absolutely. We're very pleased to have back on the Conservative Commandos, Matt Margolis. He's the author of The Scandalous Presidency of Barack Obama. That strikes me as that's got to be a multi-volume book. But he's also he also is author of the best-selling The Worst President in History, The Legacy of Barack Obama. Again, I suspect these are multi-volume books that he's written, so you should keep your eyes out for him. Anyhow, he is also a contributor for PJ Media, and he has a new book coming out called Trumping Obama, How President Trump Saved Us from Barack Obama's Legacy. And that was just published earlier this summer, so you should be able to get it. You should. It sounds like another, again, a multi-volume book. So he picks great topics, something you can write a lot about. Matt is also a full-time architectural designer and a longtime blogger. And in 2003, he founded the Blogs for Bush, one of the most popular political blogs during that presidential campaign. And he was invited as a result to come to the Republican National Convention. So he had a real impact there. Since then, he has launched a number of successful blogs and has been an invited guest on many local and national media sources. So with that, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, Matt.
Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. So we wanted to talk to you about a couple articles you had written, really good ones, but I wanted to kick off, if I could, with the one on Adam Schiff, or as I like to call him, Adam Schiffless. You've got an article in which you point out that he is running a Soviet-style impeachment inquiry. So let's just jump into that and tell us a little bit about what is up. Because I heard many, many times Nancy Pelosi tell us that this had to be a bipartisan process. The American public would not accept a partisan process. And they held a vote, and the vote was bipartisan against the inquiry, meaning the Republicans and Democrats voting no, but not Republicans and Democrats voting yes, just Democrats. So what's up?
What it comes down to is that Adam Schiff is controlling every part of this process. He's judge and jury, so to speak. He's basically not allowing Republicans to have as much of a role in the process, because what he's doing is he's not allowing them to ask any questions that they want of the witnesses. Adam Schiff is basically saying that if he doesn't like a particular question or really does not want to hear the answer, he will instruct witnesses not to answer those questions. And it was, I found this interesting because, I looked up the definition of what is witness tampering, and, trying to prevent testimony is witness tampering. And it doesn't, I mean, he might be running the show, but that's to me, I still think he's very much guilty of that, because he's not allowing essentially both sides to have an equal role in this process.
So the witnesses are under oath, right?
I think by law you can't lie to Congress without it
they
being
can lie
illegal.
to us,
So,
okay. They can lie to us, but we can't lie to them. Okay, that seems fair. But as I understand it, if they're under oath, they're under obligation to tell the whole truth. So yes. when they ask a question of somebody and he senses that the whole truth will not promote his cause, he tries to shut them down.
Right.
So I would argue he's actually suborning perjury then.
I think you could make that case because when you're trying to only allow one side to get out, then there's a problem there, and we've already seen this manifest itself in selective leaks that have been coming out of these secret meetings and secret hearings. So when we're only getting one side, the only logical explanation for that is that this process is designed to influence public opinion against Donald Trump.
Well, it's interesting. I think that people have to, when you look at a process, I'm an attorney by trade. Process matters. It may sound boring, but process matters, because due process, is the way we achieve fairness. It's how we distinguish ourselves from banana republics and dictatorships, where whoever's in charge just gets to say, this is what I want to do. Like in Alice in the Wonderland, off with her head, the queen, right? Whatever, and it's just, due process is critical. And I think most Americans, while they don't necessarily understand all the ins and outs of due process, they get the basic idea of fundamental fairness in process. And do you think that Americans are watching this process and saying, wow, Adam Schiff's just doing a great job. He's making sure everything's fair and reasonable? Or do you think they're catching on?
I think Democrats don't care whether Trump's due process rights are being protected or not. But when it comes to independents and Republicans, they're those are the people that I guess you could say it really matters what they think of this process. And I think we're starting to see polling show that the perception of this process is not. It has been trending downward. There was a point a while back where it seemed like that it had kind of peaked with public support for it. But I think the more and more people see of this process, they realize what it's all about. So I think it might take a while for us to really see that play out. But I can't imagine that there are a lot of people out there that would think that if this was happening to Barack Obama, that they would like this process.
Yeah. If we change the parties of who's involved, I have a feeling that they would hear a different tune. Let's shift gears, at least from my question standpoint, to Nancy Pelosi, because you've also written on Nancy, and of course she plays some role in this, because I think as Speaker she has to own at least some part of this. I realize she doesn't control everything Adam Schiff does, but the reality is he really can't get too far afield unless she's willing to allow it. Because as Speaker, she really can shut certain things down. She could even revoke his chairmanship if she was offended by what he was doing. But of course she won't do that. So I guess my question would be, how did we get from September telling us that it needed to be bipartisan to, late October, to them basically on Halloween Day, essentially, they hold a totally partisan vote, and that's okay.
Well, I think it's quite clear that she might have the position, but she doesn't control the party as much as she would like to believe. It's AOC and the squad that are kind of, I don't know, they're not running the show, but they're definitely, their influence is being felt more and more. and that's become very clear that the far left, especially now that because they're all riled up, paying attention to the current election stuff going on with the primaries. Their voices are the ones that are being heard the most. It's not the if they do exist, the moderates of the party. It's the base, and the base wants impeachment. They wanted impeachment the day after Trump was elected. They still wanted impeachment the day that he was inaugurated, and they've been calling for it from the beginning. And after 2.5 years of them wanting this and coming up with every sort of scandal they can try and throw at him, that they still believe to be true. I think it just hit a point where Nancy knew that she couldn't put it off any longer, because otherwise there was going to be a big revolt.
Fair point. Now, I just want to put in context here. Nancy Pelosi is a longtime ultra-liberal from San Francisco. And what you're telling me is there are people in the party that are substantially more liberal or to her left. And there was a time when that wasn't possible. She was so far left that it's interesting what's happened to the party in the sense that, I'm not sure Barack Obama could win the nomination being the Barack Obama of 2008 in this party. Well, he was trying very hard to sound moderate.
Right, exactly. It's not about him not being far left. It's the way he presented himself to the American people. He said he was gonna bring the parties together and work across the aisle. I mean, he didn't do any of that. I mean, he was basically incompetent when it came to working with Congress, and especially working with Republicans. Nancy Pelosi knows right now that Democrats are not going to win a year from now on Medicare for all and these other far left policies. She might support them, but she knows that the American public are not behind them right now.
Yeah, that's not a winning platform.
It's not.
Absolutely. Well, we are running up towards our break, and so I don't want to steal time from my very capable co-host. So what I'll do is, I'm glad you can stick around because we've got more to talk about. I know she's got lots of great questions, but because we're up against the break and sometimes it can be a cruel taskmaster, we'll take one now. But I do want to remind our listeners, you're listening to the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith with Sharron Engel, and we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio network, which is broadcast all across this great nation, and also on the AUN TV network, and also, if you're not near a broadcast tower of some variety, you can always catch us on Al Gore's amazing internet. iHeartRadio, America, Political Radio, TalkStream Live, you name it. We truly are everywhere. Of course, there's also our website too, ccrshow.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Engel with my co-host, George Landrith, and we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios with a shout-out to our listeners in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas, and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, and now we are in Washington, D.C. and Alexandria, Virginia. So truly, we're everywhere, especially now that we're in Pelosi country. They're in Northern California on the AUN TV network. We've been talking with our special guest, Mark Margolis, who's the author of The Scandalous Presidency of Barack Obama and the best-selling The Worst President in History. And he's also a contributor to PJ Media. He's written a couple of great articles. One is Adam Schiff, accused of witness tampering in Soviet-style impeachment inquiry. And the other, Nancy Pelosi worried 2020 Democrats are going too far left. Mark, thanks for thanks for staying through the break with us. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this too far left stuff. I thought it was really interesting in this article because Nancy Pelosi herself says she's not a socialist. What's going on there?
Yeah, right. I think Nancy's, she's smart enough. I mean, she might have really bad policies, but she's smart enough to know how to win. She's been behind several, there's been several times now, in the past 10, 15 years where Democrats have taken back Congress, not by running to the left, but by recruiting moderate Democrats to run for seats that they can win. She knows how to campaign. She knows how to win, and this is what she's trying to do. She's trying to win, and you don't win by running so far to the left that when it's time to pivot back to the center for the general election, you really can't, because you've been talking about Medicare for all and free college for people and student loan forgiveness, all these things that cost all this money that we just don't have, because people are going to ask questions. How do you pay for this? I mean, look what happened to Elizabeth Warren right now. She says her plan's going to cost $52 trillion. Oh, but it's not going to cost the middle class a penny. Yeah, right. Seriously? I mean,
magic math.
Exactly.
Well, it kind of looks like through your article that Nancy is leaning toward Joe Biden. She sees him as the more centrist, or perhaps even the more sane of all the group of contenders.
It's hard to imagine in this world that Joe Biden is going to be considered a centrist. Sane. Barack Obama's vice president. He helped bring this country further to the left. There's no doubt about that. But to his credit, Biden at this point says that he's against Medicare for all. He thinks that we should fix Obamacare. Of course, I would have said, "Want you have done it right the first time," but be that as it may, he in many ways he does actually sounds sensible compared to the others. I mean, we shouldn't believe it. The moment if he was elected, he'll push for these far left policies just as much as anyone. I mean, he's already been swayed to support this whole Green New Deal nonsense. He backtracked on the Hyde Amendment, so he's definitely encourageable by the far left. So I mean, I don't think we should pretend that he's a moderate, and I don't think that Never Trumpers should believe that he's gonna be the moderate option for them to choose.
So there seems to be a vacuum. That it just seems like they really don't have a candidate yet. That out of all these 26 or 28 that have raised their hand, there's really not one. Do you think there's somebody in the wings here that's just waiting for a chance? I mean, we've heard Hillary. One of our guests even proposed Michelle Obama. What do you think?
I don't think either of those two are going to run. I don't think everything I heard suggested that Michelle Obama really hated being part of that whole stuff, and granted she enjoyed the perks. I don't think she really liked the White House life. And as for Hillary, I think she'd have to really believe that it would be a sure thing for her to not just win the nomination, but the presidency, because I can't imagine how difficult it was for her to lose to Trump the first time. I don't think she would risk.
I thought she won the first time, didn't she? She said
she says she did.
Could beat him again.
Last I checked, she wasn't in the Oval Office. So, but I think Trump is better positioned in 2020 to win re-election than he was in 2016 to win that election. I was convinced for most of that campaign that he was going to lose, and right now the economy is doing well. He's followed through on a lot of his promises. I think he's got a strong record to run on, and I think it'll be hard for any Democrat to beat him, despite what the polls are saying right now. But polls are like that, a year out. People
also,
at this time,
3 years ago, the polls predicted Hillary to be president.
Right, 3 years ago, they said Hillary was going to be president, and back in 2012 or back in 2011. Mitt Romney would have won election based on the polls at that time. So it's too early to say what's going to happen. Not everyone's totally tuned in yet. So I still say that it's definitely looking better for Trump now than it did for him back in 2016.
So let's just talk a little bit about polls. There's a Fox poll out that says that they believe that, let's see, there's 60% believe that Trump asked the Ukraine to investigate Biden, instead of the other way around, with the Ukraine asking President Trump if he would help with their investigation, which we believe that is probably the true case. And the other one is that he's used the military aid. 52% believe that he used military aid as leverage, as a quid pro quo, which is exactly what Biden did, not what Trump did. So where's this coming from? I thought it was interesting that it was a Fox poll that got these skewed things. I understand the media, but wouldn't you think that the Fox poll would call their own viewers and that they'd be better informed than this?
Well, I think it says a lot about what people have heard about this call, which is why I think that Trump last week said that he wants to do a fireside chat where he would actually read the transcript verbatim for people to hear. I think it's a brilliant idea. I think most people have no idea what that transcript says. I think that very few people have even bothered to download it and read it. And most of the time, what people are hearing is not what it actually says, but what people in the media are saying about it, or what Adam Schiff claimed was in it. Which we know was completely bogus.
But they're pressing forward with this impeachment thing, and they've now got it in this poll, 43-42. 43 saying that we should decide the people in an election. 42 saying no, impeach him. So it seems like to me it doesn't really matter who the Democrats throw up. It could be anybody. The media is going to make sure that this thing's a winner for them.
Well, they did it last time, and Trump still managed to to get elected. So I think, I don't want to be one of those people that says don't worry about the polls because the polls all said Trump was going to lose last time. I think we need to be mindful of them, but I also think that we need to understand that Trump's support is very hard has proven to be very hard for pollsters to really grasp in how they manage their polls. So I think there's a lot of support out there that's not being measured yet.
That's good news. Really good news for us that are looking at this and saying, where are they getting these numbers? The other thing that George mentioned was process. And the process, I've been through an impeachment process here in my own state. And it's the lower house brings the charge. It's the upper house that actually has the trial. So this thing doesn't have legs, does it? I mean, even if Adam Schiff pushes and Pelosi gets the vote and they throw it on over to the Senate, what's the point?
Well, I think that's why they've been kind of dragging their feet through this. I think they figured the longer that they make this an issue, that it'll wear down Republicans and hopefully get a few, the weak ones like Mitt Romney to support, conviction. And I don't think it'll work. I think the best thing, really is to just, they've already gotten us into this. They can't back out now. So there's going to be a House vote, and most likely it'll be a vote to impeach, and then it'll go to the Senate. That's almost guaranteed at this point. There's nothing you can do about it. I think Democrats, I think they should get this over with, though, because if they drag this out, it's just going to make things worse for everybody, not just for Democrats or Republicans, but for everybody. We don't need this going on. The election is now a year away, and I think we have the information we need to make a decision here.
A
lot of people have already made their decision about whether Trump did anything impeachable. Heck, even before we knew about this whole Ukraine call, because there are polls that showed that at least a good number of Democrats supported impeachment beforehand. They've always been for impeachment. They supported impeachment. They just needed something a crime or an alleged crime to kind of be the reason to start the process.
And therein is the problem, isn't it? It's their only issue. Matt Margolis, thank you so much for being on our show. Tell our listeners how they can read your articles, read your books, just follow you in general.
Well, I write regularly at pjmedia.com, and you can find me online. Go to mattmargolis.com, and I'm on Facebook, and can also check out my books on Amazon.
Thank you so much for being our guest, Matt Margolis. God bless you.
Thanks for having me.
And we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And of course, now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. I'm Sharron Engel here with my co-host, George Landrith, and we'll be right back after these messages with our next guest.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to buyyourtimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. Buyyourtimeshare.com. That's buyyourtimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Engel. My co-host is George Landrith, and we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show, please check out our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com, and friend us, follow us, like us on Facebook and on Twitter. And George, our next guest is ready. Would you please introduce him?
I would be most pleased to. I'm really glad to be able to introduce to you our next guest, a political writer, a commentator, an attorney, Elad Hakim. His articles, you've seen them published in the Washington Examiner, the Daily Caller, the Federalist. He's everywhere. The American Thinker, Western Journal. He is a prolific writer, and he invariably is writing things that make lots of sense. So, which I think means that chances are Nancy Pelosi doesn't understand anything he says. But with that, welcome back, Elad, to the Conservative Commandos radio show and now television show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Glad to have you. Let me just start us off on. You've written a great article about how on this whole issue, Special Forces went in and grabbed al-Baghdadi. Well, didn't grab him. Actually, he ran away and blew himself up, but ended his life. And we find out that Nancy Pelosi was upset because she wasn't told in advance. And so apparently this is some big scandal because the president, he is the commander in chief, but doggone it, he has to pass everything by the Speaker of the House, apparently. I've never read that in the Constitution, but it must be the small print somewhere. So fill us in on what's going on with that crazy story.
Yeah, I mean, you basically hit it in a nutshell. Pelosi was upset after Trump had sent in people for the raid. And Pelosi came out and said, hey, you know what? You didn't notify us. You had to notify us before. Other countries knew about it. We didn't even know about it. And I wrote a piece basically saying that, hey, in this under these circumstances, President Trump wasn't really required to notify you. He, under Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, the president has as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and he has the right to utilize the armed forces as he sees necessary. Now, the caveat is that under Article 1, Congress has the authority to declare war, to provide funding, etc., for the military. So there appears to be a conflict between the Article 2 powers and the Article 1 powers, and some of it has been litigated. But the essence of it is that part of it goes, and let me just throw in, there's also the War Powers Act, and the War Powers Act gives Congress the right to, within a certain amount of time, demand that the president notify them if the military is involved in quote-unquote hostilities. So there are a couple arguments here. The first argument is obviously that, hey, this wasn't a hostility. Okay, these weren't hostilities, and this is not a time of war where the president is required to seek congressional approval. This was a situation where the president went in. It was very, very quick. It was for the purposes of national security, which is one reason why a president is allowed to utilize the armed forces, or for national interests. Here, he was going in to apprehend or to kill a terror leader who has already been involved with the killing of a lot of Americans and people overseas, and who's threatened the U.S. And the other aspect to it is that this was short in duration. So this wasn't something that took the forces aren't there for months. They were there for a very short amount of time. None of them were injured.
Hours.
Thank God. Yeah, hours. And interestingly, the president was also concerned about leaks. The president came out and said that given the fact that everything happens to leak in Washington, especially nowadays, it wasn't. He couldn't take the risk of somebody tipping off, the guy and the putting our troops at risk. So for those reasons, I don't feel that he needed to notify them ahead of time. Now, he did need to notify them afterwards, and he did that. And he did that. I mean, right afterward, he came on. He said it was a successful mission, and he notified the people. So I don't think they had anything. And by the way, previous administrations have also done similar things. I believe I mentioned in the article that former President Obama did something similar. Former, I think, President Clinton, Reagan. So it's not the first time that this has been done. But of course, it's President Trump. And whenever President Trump is involved, even if it's something good, it's obviously bad.
It's the worst thing ever.
It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah. So one of the things I thought was interesting is at one point he told members of Congress, at least the leadership like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, that and a handful of others, that the ICE was going to be running some operations to track down illegal aliens and to deport them. And they promptly went to the press and warned people and illegal aliens to be on the lookout and how to evade this law enforcement action. So we actually have precedent for them being told about something in advance and then using that information to thwart the policy and damage America's interests. So I would argue that the president didn't tell Nancy Pelosi about this operation to get al-Baghdadi for the same reason he didn't tell al-Baghdadi about it in advance.
I mean, I remember that Pelosi presser, and it was unbelievable what she did. She actually came out and gave, some people construed it as legal advice, to go and stay with people in their house because ICE agents can't go there. They have to wait till you kind of come out, and she gave them advice. But this was a little different insofar as that there was the question of whether the president was constitutionally or legally permitted to do that, and I think that he was in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think your analysis. I teach constitutional law, and I agree with your analysis. If he had launched a world war that lasted for 4 years, at some point he would have to have Congress's approval and permission. But it has never been the case that a president has required. Thomas Jefferson took on the Barbary Pirates without a congressional mandate. So for, like you said, you can go back in history a long, long time. And the Barbary Pirates are probably the closest thing to terrorists that we're familiar with back then. So it's very interesting that just kind of how, like you said, if it's Donald Trump, it's the worst thing in the world.
It was interesting, too, with the War Powers Act, and I referenced it. I think it was a professor of some sort made the argument that, hey, if Congress, if the president had to notify Congress ahead of time, then why would the president have to get their approval after hostilities started?
Yeah, I think it's within 90 or 120 days.
Yeah, so it didn't make a lot of sense.
Right, yeah. If pre-approval is required, why would post-approval be required?
Correct. It presupposes
in
that
statute,
he do what he
very
wants
clearly,
and afterwards seek their approval.
Right. Yeah. Generally speaking, you have to assume that the writer of the statute is not completely insane, and that they understand the plain meaning of words. And if they do require either 60 or 90 days later, I can't remember which one it is now, but if they require it, it's measured in months, either 2, 3, 4 months later, The president has to then, get their continued approval. Why he'd have to have it beforehand, like you said, makes no sense. There's no logic to that. It's just like, I'm sorry, but part of constitutional and statutory construction is you have to assume that the person who wrote the statute understood the plain meaning of words, and you have to assume that they're not completely insane and that they, that they have some basic and rudimentary logical skills. And
it's amazing how there's really selective enforcement of what precedent says. Just look at the current impeachment inquiry. If they were so concerned with precedent, wow, I do think that this entire inquiry would be running just a bit differently. So it's a lot of
now they even argue that you made an interesting point that you have times where the Constitution gives powers to branches of government that pits them against each other.
Correct.
And the founders did that on purpose. They weren't worried about that. That wasn't an oversight on their part. They thought they'll just have to battle it out. I would argue impeachment is one of those. The president doesn't have to cooperate in impeachment. He doesn't have to roll over and say, okay, if you want to impeach me, you can. He can say, yeah, well, that's fine, but I'm not cooperating. You know what I mean? I don't understand the idea that he has to, quote, do what Adam Schiff tells him to do. And if he doesn't, that's more evidence of impeachable offenses. That's crazy talk.
Well, I agree with you. And I wrote a piece not too long ago saying that in some ways it seemed that Adam Schiff was trying to create an impeachable offense by trying to create obstructive behavior. And it really wasn't obstructive behavior. For example, objecting to a subpoena is not obstruction. There are many reasons why parties, people object to subpoenas.
That's a legal process.
The legal process.
Yeah, I've had people subpoena me as a think tank. They didn't like my op-ed article, and so they subpoenaed me. And I told them they could go to hell. I said, I'm not going to show up for that. And they said, you have to. It's a subpoena. I said, yeah, no, I don't have to. You have to go to a judge and ask the judge to enforce your subpoena. And I love to hear you explain how it is that as a head of a think tank, when I write an article you don't like as a state prosecutor, and I point out how corrupt your behavior is, that you have the right to subpoena me to ask me why I wrote it.
Right.
I say, anyhow, but it's just, so anyhow, people kind of misunderstand what it means. But we're up against the clock, and we've got to take a quick break, and there's lots more to talk about, and I know that Sharron will have questions for you. So I want to make sure I just remind our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith. She's Sharron Engel, and of course, we've been talking with Elad Hakim. He's been just fabulous, and we're going to have some more from him, so don't go away. And again, coming to you on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, the AUN TV Network, and always Al Gore's amazing internet. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back, listeners. The Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Engel with my co-host, George Landrith, and we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos radio network studios. And if you'd like to watch us on the AUN TV network, you can tune in Northern California in places like San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, Silicon Valley, Santa Rosa, Wine Country, Sacramento, and soon in Lake Tahoe and Reno, Nevada. And if you'd like to get a rebroadcast of our show, please check out our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. We've been talking with our guest, Elad Hakim, who is a political writer, commentator, and an attorney. And his articles have been published in the Washington Examiner, the Daily Caller, and the Federalist, to just name a few. He's written a couple of good articles that we've been talking about. The first, President Trump was not necessarily required to notify the House before the recent raid. And the second, Republicans should reject the House's recent resolutions. So I have some questions, obviously, about this whole raid thing. I like the president and like you and George were saying, it seems like there's a lot of leaking going on in Washington, D.C. Why would you let these people have any kind of information ahead of time if you want to keep something quiet? Did President Barack Obama, did he let Congress know that he was going after Osama bin Laden the night that they captured him, or the day they captured him? Did that come up?
I think there were a few people who knew, but I don't think. I think it was a very select few. Although he's not exactly my barometer of what's permissible, but I think there was just a select few.
Yeah, and I know we all heard after the fact, and it was kind of hoorah, hoorah. Nobody raised the question. I don't remember anybody in Congress saying, "Oh, well, he didn't tell us. How come he didn't tell us?" In your article, you mentioned that she has a pretty strong case until you start really looking at it closely. And you quote a fellow named Marty Letterman. Talk to us a little bit about what Marty Letterman said about this whole thing, because I thought that was a pretty good argument that he made for, Nancy, go away.
Basically, because there's this debate between the different powers, there's a question of when you have to notify and under what circumstances. So he takes kind of the middle-of-the-road approach and says that you have to notify if two conditions are met. One, if it's going to serve the use of the military, the use of force is going to serve a significant national interest, one of which has been like self-defense, protection of U.S. nationals, and two, that the duration or the operation that the military is being used for can't be for a long duration of time. So we said that under those two circumstances, then the use of force, the military, can be the president can call for the use of the military without prior approval, and in my opinion, that fit. These particular circumstances fit that mold. And for that reason, they didn't have to. the president didn't have to ask for permission.
Yeah, well, that seemed pretty compelling to me as well when I read it, because what we have here is a fellow that has caused harm not only to worldwide, but to Americans in specific. And they knew where he was. They went in, they got him, and they were out, in hours, less than a day, less than this 48 hours that they say they wanted to have a window. They wanted 48 hours in advance, really?
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is just to remember, what are they really going to do? Honestly, what are they going to do if the president doesn't tell them? I'm not sure that any president really, maybe one. I think that Clinton might have been sued by some people, some members of the House, for not notifying them because he waited after the 60-day window. And I think the judge came back and said, forget about it. I think the judge ruled for Clinton in that case. So that's a whole other thing. I mean, the practical side of things is, what are they really going to do? The president went in, came out, no one was injured, no one was killed, thank God, from the U.S. side. So what are they really going to do?
Well, when we look at your second article about this resolution, I guess we have to ask that same question. So what are they really going to do? You say the Republicans should reject this. This House resolution doesn't seem like much of a resolution to me, the way we've been watching Adam Schiff do things. I mean, what do they resolve?
Public perception. That's what it tries to. This is, in my opinion, that's what it's all about. This is a farce, what they're doing. This is a travesty for the country and for the Constitution and for
due process
and for past congressional precedent, and it doesn't afford due process. I mean, this resolution, if you want to call it that, in essence is a Adam Schiff show. If minority members of the House want to subpoena, if they want to pose questions, if they want to call witnesses, they can do all that subject to Adam Schiff's approval. And look at what he's doing now. They're releasing transcripts, right? In the law, the federal rules, I think it's Rule 106, there's something called the rule of completeness. And what that is it basically says that if you're going to introduce a document, then the other side is allowed to introduce the rest of the document or other documents that can go ahead and negate what's in that document. And that's a very simple summary of it. But the reason behind that rule is to prevent exactly what's happening now. They are trying to sway public opinion by nitpicking and taking parts of the pieces of information that supports their narrative. And this resolution really hurts Republicans, and Republicans better get on the ball. And it's basically they need to convince the public that this is a ruse, because that's what it is. And I'm just finishing an article
he
now.
even prevents people from answering questions if he knows the answer is going to be unhelpful to his
100%.
cause.
That's why they have to pose questions. And Adam Schiff doesn't, excuse me for saying, he doesn't have the right to instruct witnesses not to answer. He's not a special counsel. Okay, he's the chairman of the committee, and he's sitting there instructing witnesses not to answer. So
even if they want to.
Correct, even if they want to. I'm just finishing a piece now saying that he should be compelled to testify. Whether legally he's allowed to do that as a chair, I'd have to look into that. But if you think about it, the chair of the committee who allegedly wants transparency should testify. He met with the whistleblower before the complaint was filed. He sent out a tweet that was basically mimicking the complaint, the language of the complaint, before it was filed. He never disclosed it. He's preventing the whistleblower from testifying, right? Hiding under the guise of he's got to be protected. It's nonsense. He's got to testify because he's got a major credibility problem, not to mention his alleged bias. So why wouldn't he testify? Why wouldn't he want to go up and just testify under oath? This is what we did. This is what we talked about. If he has nothing to hide, does that mean, like he likes to say, is it obstruction? Is his refusal to testify, should we deem it to be obstruction because he refuses to do that?
Well, and you mentioned the whistleblower. So here we go. That whistleblower has tons of connection to Adam Schiff, doesn't he? I mean, he was hired by Adam Schiff. So all of a sudden, this thing now is really moving into a really different aspect. This no longer, it appears to me, has anything to do really with President Trump. It has everything to do with the Democrats and what they've been doing behind the scenes to trump up charges against an American citizen.
You know, it's amazing. If you ask a lawyer, whenever you have like a client, right, you'll know that when you take a witness statement or you take a deposition, there'll be some people who support your claim, and then there'll be some that don't, and then you go and you introduce it to the jury, and the jury decides. But how many times is it when the alleged catalyst, okay, for the whole thing, this whistleblower, every single witness somehow comes back and ties back to Ukraine or to Schiff or to Biden? It's really amazing the way this is happening, and that's probably part of the reason why they're being so secretive and so careful about who testifies. This whistleblower, I mean, you know, you hush, you can't say his name, but this whistleblower's got some serious anti-Trump. From what the article came out, he's not a fan of the president at all.
Well, and it sounds like his name is no longer Hush Hush. We all know what his name is. We know who he's connected to, that he was a GS-13. That just speaks volumes to me that they are using what we now understand to be the deep state.
Yeah, they were saying, how can such a low-level person get access to such high-level information? You know, he's obviously, from what they said, he's an expert in Ukraine and Russia. He's connected somehow to Biden. He's connected to everybody who kind of wants the president to be impeached. I think he worked with Brennan at some point, or was connected with Brennan. So, I mean, look, if I'm Schiff, I don't necessarily want some of these Republicans starting to, you know, cross-examination is a powerful tool. And when you're under oath, little bit different.
Well, and it doesn't seem like he's losing control, is what it seems like to me, because now the media feels bound to start reporting on all of this stuff. So no longer is it something that's happening in his committee. He can't control what the media says. He can't control what we're saying right now or what our listeners are listening to. I mean, the truth is, like, it's going out and it's going to be viral, and there's nothing that Schiff can do. He could say you can't testify, but I mean, it's all, the testimony's out there now, isn't it?
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, the testimony right now is out there for the Democrats. The problem is Republicans, as we discussed, because of this resolution, can't seem to get anything out. They can't cross-examine. They can't subpoena documents because Schiff has to approve everything. So somehow Republicans need to figure out how to educate the public about what's going on.
Go to the Twitter feed.
The Twitter feed, yeah. I don't know why, for example, Lindsey Graham, you know, can use the powers of the Senate, and I'm not sure exactly what kind of limitations there would be on the impeachment side of things, but the Senate could try to find out things about Biden, for example, because from the sounds of recent polls, Biden provides the biggest risk right now to Trump as far as what the recent polls show.
Yeah, it looks like Pelosi's favoring Biden too, so here we go. But it seems like that Twitter feed has been doing some good things for the president. Every congressman has a Twitter feed. They should be on it, and they should be telling what they know and cross-examining these guys right there in the court of public opinion. Elad, Hakim, we really appreciate you being our guest today. Would you tell our listeners how to read your articles and follow you?
Sure. You can find me on Facebook at Thoughtfully Conservative and on Twitter at Thoughtful GOP. So please feel free to read the articles and to jump into the discussion.
Thank you so much, Elad Hakim, for being our guest here on Conservative Commandos radio show. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
And we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Network radio studios and around the world on the internet. TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM FM 24/7. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network. We'll be right back after these messages. I'm Sharron Engel, and I'm here with my co-host, George Landrith.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Sharron Engel. I'm here with my co-host, George Landrith. And we're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios around the world on the internet and, of course, on the AUN TV networks in Northern California, Pelosi country. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our program, just go to our website, ccrshow.com, ccrshow.com. George, our next guest is ready. Would you please introduce him?
I'd be very happy to. We have as our next guest Tristan Justice. He's a staff writer at The Federalist. Great publication. You ought to have as one of your favorites on your web browser. But he focuses on the 2020 presidential campaigns. That's where he spends lots of his time, so he really gets what's going on there. But he's also written for the Washington Examiner, another great publication, and the Daily Signal, another one. So he has that in his blood. Now, he graduated from George Washington University, and he majored there in political science and minored in journalism. So we'll have to ask him what his thoughts are on how journalism is doing in America today, because while he may be a good journalist, it seems to me that he's among a dying breed. But anyway, with that, Tristan, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show and television show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
One of the things that you've written a really good article, two really good articles we want to kind of focus on today for the purposes of our interview. One is on Kamala Harris and what's going on in her campaign. And I thought it might make sense for you to just give us an update, because there was a time when many of my friends who were in the political arena kind of picked her and said, you watch, she'll be the nominee. And she just hasn't caught fire. And so maybe you can tell us what's going on there and why maybe my good friends, as smart as they may be, turned out to be wrong on this one.
Yeah, well, when she first announced her candidacy, I really thought, too, that she could be one to watch in the race and could really pull it off. But as we've seen, after her initial momentum that she picked up in June at that first presidential debate, she's declined ever since. And she never really fully recovered from the attacks lodged against her at the subsequent rounds of debates for her record as Attorney General of California, spearheaded by Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. The tale of Kamala Harris is a tale that's similar to many of the candidates that we've seen. Beto O'Rourke dropped out last week on Friday. He was another candidate who many saw as a potential top-tier candidate. So I think the story of Kamala Harris is just a candidate whose flame peaked too early in the race, and she just qualified today for the December Democratic debate, but I wouldn't be too sure that she's going to qualify for the one after, because she just can't seem to pick up the momentum that she's lost over the summer.
It's hard for me to imagine that Beto O'Rourke isn't going to be the nominee, because after all, he told us he was born to be president, didn't he? or did I get that wrong?
Yeah, born to run Beto, ran home.
Yeah. Talk about an empty suit. I mean, to me, he is one of the most frivolous people to ever run for public office of any type. I mean, to me, he is completely frivolous. And I didn't really have a high opinion. I referred to Barack Obama pretty freely early on as an empty suit. And I said he was the Billy Madison president or candidate at the time. Billy Madison was played by Adam Sandler. It's a stupid movie, but it's a great scene where he says, and he's in a game show contest, and the principal of the school and the game show host says, Mr. Madison, what you just said is the most insanely idiotic thing I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response did you get anywhere near a rational thought. In fact, everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. And I said to myself, that you could say that after most things that Barack Obama said. And I would say the same thing for half the candidates now. These are empty-headed people who just kind of spew silly drivel. And yet they're treated like they're serious.
Yeah, no, it's been a fascinating race to watch for sure. One thing that I would highlight that we've seen a lot in this race is this kind of idea that money seems to be money seems to not be a real thing or a real concern.
Money and unicorns, it's all fake.
Yeah, I mean, we have progressive candidates leading this pack who are touting dramatic proposals that would blow up our national debt to proportions unimaginable. They're advocating for Medicare for all, single-payer health care. They're advocating for a Green New Deal, which would wreck the economy as we know it. They're advocating for reparations for slavery. They're advocating for the cancellation of all student debt. These are proposals that the government cannot fund, no matter how much you say you want to tax the wealthy.
I mean, you could confiscate all the wealth of the top 10%, and you still would not have enough to pay for even one of those programs, like Medicare for all. It simply does not. This is just, it's lunacy. It's math. It's magic math. It's unicorn math. It's craziness.
No, you're absolutely right. Several studies have come out and shown that it's just mathematically impossible to pay for even just Medicare for all by taxing the rich. That's come from the Heritage Foundation, experts at the Committee for a Responsible Budget, which is a nonprofit public policy think tank here in D.C. And so one thing in this Democratic primary that we've seen is these candidates lurching to the left to cater to a base that appears to be voting for it. Look, Joe Biden would be considered the most radical candidate in any other primary before this year, and the fact that he's seen as a moderate in this race just illustrates how far left this field has pushed the party. I mean, we're seeing things like reparations for slavery and a universal basic income become mainstream topics in these democratic debates. It would have just been unheard of 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when Barack Obama famously told us that he was going to go through the budget line by line, looking for ways to cut waste and fraud and so forth. I laughed at the time, but most of the country didn't laugh. They believed him. Anyhow, those days are gone. You don't hear that out of any. They're talking about spending more money on one budget item alone than the entire federal budget currently spends. That's how crazy it's gotten. But anyhow, the segment where I get to ask questions is going to come. I've only got a minute or two left, so I just want to make sure we get to the second article because it's a really good one too, and it's entitled "The Rules of the Democratic-Backed Impeachment Inquiry Are Stacked Against Trump." The whole point of the process is generally designed to create a certain fairness. You have adversarial proceedings, so you have both sides. You have cross-examination, the right to challenge your witnesses and their assumptions and present other evidence. Those kinds of things are all part of the American system, and they're designed to help us get to the truth, as opposed to having somebody anoint the truth for us. So let's talk a little about what's going on here, what Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi have kind of done to subvert the system, and why it's stacked against the president when in fact it should be a fair inquiry.
Yeah, so the process being run by Adam Schiff and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been an unfair process from the start. But look, the Democrats have been trying to impeach Donald Trump ever since Trump took office in January 2017. 2 weeks after his inauguration, prominent members of Congress already started talking about impeaching the president. We had members elected last year who campaigned on impeaching the president. And the process being run by Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi from the very beginning has been unfair, starting in August and September. They've been running secret hearings in the basement of the Capitol building that have been closed off to a majority of the members of Congress. Congressman Schiff has been barring Republican members from asking questions that Schiff doesn't want the witnesses to answer. The president's legal counsel does not have access to the hearings, cannot even be present during the hearings currently going on in the House basement. The president's counsel cannot even be present during hearings that have been put forward even after the resolution was passed last week. And Republicans don't even have full subpoena powers to request witnesses and subpoena evidence like they did in the Nixon and Clinton proceedings. So when Nancy Pelosi comes out in a press conference and says these are the fairest rules that the House has ever abided by in an impeachment process, it is just an absolute lie. The very fact that the minority party may not have full subpoena powers alone shows just how partisan and just how unfair that this process is and how stacked against Trump is it.
Well said. A very good summary of all of that. And I know that Sharron will have a lot more questions, but we're up against the clock right now, so I'm glad you can stick with us to the break because there's lots more to discuss. But I do want to remind our listeners, you are listening and viewing the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith. She is Sharron Engel, and of course we have with us a fabulous guest in Tristan Justice. We'll be right back, but I do want to make sure you know that you can listen to us on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. You can watch us on the AUN TV network. And of course, if you don't happen to be near a broadcast tower of either the television or radio variety, you can always catch us on Al Gore's amazing internet. TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. And of course, there you can also find CCRShow.com. We truly are everywhere. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Conservative Commandos Radio. We are coming to you from our network studios and around the world on the internet. And we'd like to shout out to our listeners in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Nevada, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Colorado, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, Washington, D.C., and Alexandria, Virginia. And if you'd like to have us on your local radio station, just give us a holler at Rick at Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Rick at Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He's always open for good guests as well. And we are talking to a good guest today in Tristan Justice. And we've been talking to Tristan about two articles that he wrote. Tristan is a staff writer at The Federalist, and he has written two articles. The first one, Kamala Harris to cut staff and restructure the campaign to save the sinking presidential bid. But she's not out yet because she says she's going to camp out in Iowa. Isn't that right, Tristan?
Yeah, she promised to move there, so we'll see what happens.
Well, it's interesting to me that she got there because she attacked Biden. So, do you think that might be her best grab this time too at this next debate? I mean, he's more vulnerable now than he was when she first attacked him.
Yeah, I know it's been interesting to watch the Kamala Harris strategy play out because she had a very successful first debate when she went after the vice president, but then something changed and she shifted from her criticism. She actually played it very nice in the last few debates. She went after Biden on a few things like the Hyde Amendment and abortion, but Harris has played it somewhat safe actually in these later debates, and I think that's really cost her support. I think what also really hurt Harris was when that landmark moment at I think it was the July debate where Tulsi Gabbard on stage called out Harris for her hypocrisy on marijuana and incarceration. When Tulsi Gabbard laid out at the debate how Kamala Harris locked up thousands of people in California for marijuana violations, but laughed about it when asked if she smoked it herself. I think that just highlighted a gross hypocrisy in Harris, and I think it turned a lot of voters off. Harris is still a very strong candidate for president. She's still, I think, placing 5th or 6th in the national in the Real Clear Politics aggregate polls. So she's still in the top 10 field, in a very crowded field of candidates. But where Harris is really struggling is that her poll numbers have been on a steady decline for months now, and the fact that she's slashing staff in several very important states like New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina indicate a very struggling campaign with scarce resources. And the fact that in September, Harris pledged a third-place finish in Iowa to stay competitive in the campaign. And what we've seen in the last month, which she spent 15 out of 30 days in Iowa, her poll numbers are actually lower than they were at the beginning of the month. So the whole strategy to spend a lot of time in Iowa has just shown not to work, and her poll numbers have even dropped further. And if they continue to decline, I don't think we'll see Harris last after Iowa for very long. She might stay into California in March, but I think at this point it's a bad bet to think Kamala Harris is going to pull off the nomination.
Well, so what you've been saying is that the more we know her, the less we like her, and maybe she should not try to be likable. The better they like her when she's kind of mean. It seems like that's the flow, but she really has alienated how much of the base when she alienates those that like marijuana.
Well, I mean, look, in the Democratic to win the Democratic nomination, you have to win the support of African American voters. And Kamala Harris, she just hasn't been shown to do that. I mean, she has stronger support than other candidates among that key voting bloc, but my goodness, Biden and Sanders are dominating that voting bloc. And if Kamala Harris can't break out and win a substantial amount, then I really don't think she has much of a chance. And Harris's own record as Attorney General has made her not trustful among that key voting group. So I think it's a huge problem going forward. Harris should be doing a lot better in South Carolina than she is doing right now, because a majority of Democratic voters who are going to participate in that primary are African American.
Well, you mentioned that the top ones now seem to be Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Biden, and Pete Buttigieg. What does Pete Buttigieg have to recommend him that Kamala Harris doesn't?
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch Pete Buttigieg's rise. I mean, I don't think many people, a mayor of a minor Midwestern city was not expected to be a top tier contender for the presidential nomination, but his surge, especially in the recent weeks, has been incredibly surprising to not only me, but a lot of people who've been in the game for a very long time. I think what Buttigieg has been able to show is his intellect, I think, based on the voters that I've spoken to on the campaign trail, has really amazed a lot of people. This guy, I don't agree with his policy proposals, and I certainly wouldn't vote for him for president, but he is fluent in 7 languages. He's got top-tier degrees at Harvard Law School. He's a veteran. He's a Midwesterner. He's somewhat of an outsider. And he's been able to showcase that on the campaign trail, which I think has resonated with a lot of people, especially evidently in Iowa as a third-place contender and extremely close polls. And so I think if Buttigieg can pull out a second or third place in Iowa especially, then I think Buttigieg is going to be one to watch. But again, anything can happen in this primary. Kamala Harris, I thought, was one to watch, and as we've seen, she's tanked in the polls. Beto O'Rourke was one to watch, and he dropped out last week. So, anything can happen. The frontrunner today is, looking back at previous cycles, at this point in the primary, Herman Cain was the Republican frontrunner. So I think it just showcases how volatile these presidential primary campaigns can be.
Well, so is there a long shot? Is there a dark horse? Is there somebody that we haven't even been looking at that's going to jump in this race? Because it seems like there's kind of a vacuum here. Each one of these candidates that we've mentioned has has a bit of a problem they have to overcome. There's not one that's just stellar and shining. It's like every one of them we have to say, well, why would you pick him? And I think that the Democrats are actually saying that too, because they can't seem to decide on what they've got here. The field just doesn't look that great. There looks to be kind of a void approaching here. So who do you see coming out of some place that we aren't expecting?
It's a tough question to answer. I think, Andrew Yang and maybe Klobuchar, I don't think they've hit their peaks yet, but they also still haven't qualified for the December debate. And I think that if you can't qualify for that debate with the Iowa caucuses just a month out, I just don't think that you're going to be able to have a breakout moment. I think in my opinion, I think it's probably pretty safe to say that Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or maybe Pete Buttigieg will probably be the nominee at this point. We've seen Warren, Sanders, and Biden just way ahead in every state, in every poll, with the exception of Iowa, Buttigieg's support there. So I don't know if there's really a dark horse in this race, but I think you're right in saying every candidate has a major problem. And I think Democrats are grappling with this idea of, what do we value more? Do we want a progressive leftist at the top of the ticket and possibly risk losing the election to Trump? Or do we want someone like Biden, who has probably the best chance? And polls have shown that Biden has the best chance. I don't think Democrats are going to be able to have both because a whole slew of New York Times polls came out today in the 6 closest battleground states that flipped to Trump, showing that Biden is the most competitive. Biden's the most competitive candidate against Trump, but Trump beats Warren and Sanders in many of those states. And the lead that Biden has isn't even as strong as I think Democrats wish it would be. Especially, and I don't think Biden would be as much of a runaway candidate as long as this Ukraine scandal continues to stay in the public light. So I think you're right. Democrats are facing a big problem in this next election cycle.
And is this impeachment going to be the thing that really brings them to victory? Because it looks like that's even waning. Like that, their one issue that seems to unite the party is dead in the water. It's dead on arrival.
Well, I think the whole impeachment inquiry going on right now against President Trump has been a dud from the start. I think when the transcript of that phone call came out, it was evidently clear there was no explicit quid pro quo offered. And I mean, the evidence is right there. It takes 10 minutes to read. I wish every American would read it. And what's been interesting about impeachment is that the polling numbers on impeachment have started to level off at favorability to President Trump. So people who I think would just answer that they didn't like President Trump are the people who are supporting the impeachment inquiry and removal from office. And I think if the Democrats continue, and I think they will, aggressively pursue this impeachment, I think we could see something very similar to a Kavanaugh effect as we saw in 2018, where the Democratic senators who were going for blocking the Kavanaugh confirmation, they saw electoral consequences in 2018, which I think is what led the Republicans to keep the Senate. So, and I think we could very possibly see those very same electoral consequences playing Democrats next year.
From your lips to God's ears. Give us a way for our listeners to follow you, Tristan Justice, to be your friend, to hear your other things that you're doing, and also read your articles.
Yeah, so people can follow me on my Twitter or Instagram if they have Instagram. On Twitter at Justice Tristan. It's JUSTICE TRISTAN. It's the same username for both platforms. Or they can email me, and they can find my email me if they go to thefederalist.com and find one of my articles. It's very simple, Tristan@thefederalist.com.
Thank you so much, Tristan Justice. Take care and God bless.
Well, thank you for having me.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios And we can be found around the world on the internet on TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. George Landrith and I, Sharron Engel, will be right back after this message.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Welcome back, listeners, and thank you for staying through that break. I'm Sharron Engel. I'm here with my co-host, George Landrith. And George, we've had a great show. Could you thank our guests and tell our listeners how they can follow you?
Absolutely. We had three great guests. I think it's one of the great things about the Conservative Commandos is we have fabulous guests, and we had Matt Margolis. I thought he was incredibly interesting and insightful. And then we followed up with Elad Hakim, who again, since we just had the World Series and the Nationals, my team won. I feel like he came up and second home run in a row, and then we concluded with Tristan Justice and another home run. So it was a really good inning for us with three back-to-back home runs. But if you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter with G Landrith, Landrith, G Landrith, so Glandrith. You can also go to my website for Frontiers of Freedom. It's just ff.org. Really easy. 2 F's and then a .org.
And if you want to follow me, I'm Sharron Engel, and my website is SharronEngel.com. But for right now, we got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.